So here we are in 3D Studio Max, and before we begin, I just want to take a moment to clarify that this is a fairly basic beginner tutorial to follow. However, you should know your way around the software, so you should feel comfortable and you should know the basic concepts of how 3D Studio works and where to find some of the basic tools, and that goes the same for After Effects. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour of our scene. This is the main scene that we used for the entire 3-minute video. Sounds crazy, but we did work within one big scene. It just made sense, and I'll just explain why. As you can see, we are looking through a main camera. This is, you can see the name up here. And the main camera travels through the entire city and follows the little travel icon. So it's one continuous movement, one continuous animation. It just makes sense to sort of keep everything together. Now you'll also notice that there are several other cameras in the scene, like the ones that I'm clicking right now. And each one of those cameras is focused on a different structure that's going to be revealed during the travel icons tour of the city. And each one of those cameras is named after the structure that it's going to be focused on. And those are the cutaways. So for example, I'm just going to take this timeline and I'm going to just drag it along here so you can see what's happening. There's the bridge. Now we come into a structure called the generator and it is being revealed. Now if I go to this camera and I select here, I can go down to cam generator, and as you can see they're all named properly. I've got it named corresponding to the structure that it's looking at. So when I go to this camera, now it's a cutaway and we're looking at the structure again but from a different point of view. And then when I go back to camera 001, main camera, then we're back to following the travel icon. So it's just a really great way for us to stay organized, and it was easier to set up our renders and to keep track of everything really. So also over here to the right, you'll see a big list of layers, and it's kind of nutty how many are in this list, but it's a great way to organize your scene, and I highly recommend it. Now, just show you how we used it. This structure here is called the Meridian Center. If I go to my list here, Meridian Centers right here, it turns on. This is the visibility, so I can, if I need to see something underneath, I can quickly turn it on and off. I can also right click on it and hit select, and then if I right click on the actual selection and go up to isolate selection, there's a really easy way for me to make changes if I need to just see the animation and not anything around it. A great way to edit your scene. So that's just a couple really quick, simple tips that can help you stay organized. So we're going to open up a new scene now, and I'm going to go over how I actually created the map, and then also how I structured all the animations and organized that as well. So the first thing I did when I created the base of this video, which is pretty much a map, what I had to do was I gathered some images of the actual St. Catharines map that I could trace. So once I copied this from Google Maps and I created a JPEG, the next step that I do is bring it into the viewport background of 3D Studio Max. So right now I've got it in a top view. I'm going to go over here to this little plus sign in the top left, click on that and go down to Configure Viewports. I'm going to open that up, and I think it's normally set to use Customize User Interface Solid Color, and I'm in the background tab here, and there's all these selections. So I think it's normally set to that, and then this is all grayed out. What you want to do is go down to Use File, and come down to Files button down here and just load up the image that you want, select Open, and then you'll want to set Lock Zoom Pan, turn that on, and then also in the aspect ratio area select Match Bitmap. And then we'll go OK, and now what it is it's basically stuck in your background, which is a good thing because then you can trace around and it'll stay no matter where your camera's going. So as long as we stay in the top view, everything's going to match up. So now we're all set up and we can start to draw. What we're going to do is come up here to the top right to the creation panel. It's this first one right there. And come down to this row of button here. It's the second one from the left, which is called Shapes. And make sure this drop down menu is set to Splines. And then we're going to select Line. And basically we're going to leave all of the defaults. Don't worry about changing any of this. We can always change the points afterwards. And here in creation method it says initial point set to corner, and what that means is it's just going to create very linear lines for our shape, kind of like a connect the dots. So here in the viewport I'm just going to start clicking, left click to set a point. And I'm just going to follow this pink highlighted border around the city. And what I'm doing is I'm just left clicking to create the point. And the trick here is not to create too many. Keep it pretty simple. Even though there's all this detail over here, I'm just putting a couple points here and there. Reason being is at this time you just don't want to make it too complicated, and we can always go back and add more. So once I get to the beginning here, I'm going to click on my first point and it's going to ask me close spline and then just select yes. Now if you'd like to edit your points on the line, on the shape that you just created, all you need to do is come up to your modify panel, which is up here on the right, and find your selection rollout. It's the third one down, and just select vertex. And all your points will be highlighted when you do that, meaning that you can go in and start moving them around. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see what I'm doing. Now you can select point by point with your translation gizmo. So if you hit W, you can select each one independently. You can move them around however you like, just like so. And the other thing that we can do now is make these lines a little bit more curved. So you can do it on a single selection, or let's grab all three of these vertices just to demonstrate. And what I'm going to do is right click, and I'm going to go up here, and you'll see that there are a few options. There's Bezier corner, Bezier, there's corner, which we've already got it as default, and smooth. So if we want to do a Bezier, what that will do is it will create a handle on each vertex. So now I've got a green handle. I can move these around, and that you can see it's creating a nice curve. And you could go one by one and you can move these around however you like, just like so. You can stretch them out to make a wider curve or bring them in to make a tighter curve. Now if you come into a situation like this where you do want to keep the nice curve there, but you kind of want to make a point, what you can do is right click, select Bezier corner, and then you can move them around independently. So you can see I can move these handles on their own, and then there's just a little point at the top here. And that's just a really nice way to control the different types of curves if you like. If you're not too concerned about having that much control, you can convert these to smooth, and it just gives you like a nice average smooth angle. Now once you're done moving your points around and you're ready to convert this to a polygon, that's a pretty straightforward process as well. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to get out of this vertex mode and make sure that I'm in just the regular line object. Let's just zoom out a little bit. Now I'm going to remove this background viewport image just because it's going to become distracting, and let's just say that I'm happy with the shape. We're all ready to go. So underneath this pull down, go to your viewport background and select solid color, and then what you're left with is a nice gray background again, and you've got your shape. So once you've got your shape created, now it's time to convert it to a three-dimensional object. Now the best way to do that is we're going to select the shape, come to our modifier stack, which is the second tab from the left, and go to your modifying list and select Bevel. Now what you can see it's done is it's right away created a three-dimensional polygon, and what we want to do is come down here into the parameters, and I want to play around with the bevel values because that's going to give it the height and the depth that we're after. So you can see there's level 1, and I'm just going to crank the height up a little bit, and you'll see right away it's gotten much taller. Now the outline, I'm just going to show you what that is by dragging that. You can see it growing at the top, but it stays the same at the bottom, the same size. And that's kind of nice. You can play around with that if you want to give your map a little bit of a slope, or if it's going to be seen from an above angle, it'll give you just a little bit more shape to that. If you need to be very accurate, you may consider keeping it at 0. Level 2 is this level right here. You can see it growing as I turn it up. Now this is your bevel shape. So what you can do is the outline that we just played with on the level 1, we can play with that, and that will give us a nice beveled edge. Now I'm just going to say I just want it like that high. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. And there you go. Now at this point, if you like, you could choose to have more levels. So if you wanted another level, you can just add on to it and play around with the height and the outline. But I'm just going to leave it as is because, like I mentioned, my map for my project was very simple. So the way that we built up the map at this point was we treated the lines as though they were, the line shapes as though they were contours, and then just kind of built up from there. So I may have had this line that I started with and maybe drew another 2 lines that were similar to contour lines and then just build up from there. The great thing about this modifier is that I can always go back down to the line. As long as I don't collapse this modifying list, I can always go back down to the original line and I can edit. So if I realize that, you know, I needed to move this around or change this to a bevel or a Bezier, I need a little bit more detail, adding more points, I can always go back, and then when I deselect that and go to the bevel, it's going to reflect that change in the final geometry. So it's really, really great for you know, editing, managing stuff when you have clients who are constantly wanting you to change things. Or if if you're not sure if it's going to work out, you can try it out and you can edit it as you go. So it's really great to keep that in mind. And there's a lot of flexibility here. You can build up on it and you can make something very, very complicated or something very, very simple. So at this point, let's move on to animation, and we'll show you how to set up the animations and the different type of animations that we did.